Hello, this is Kai, the egomaniac with hair for ItsAMansWorldFTM1. This is week 27, health and diet. So the question posted is defined as, did you, prior to transition, gain weight in order to hide your femininity? Has your health, eating, exercise, and other habits improved since you've come out as trans? Why, yes indeed. I did gain a lot of weight in order to hide my femininity. From the age of around 16 to 18, I did try very hard to be feminine. 18, 19, I was engaged. Shortly after I turned 19, I broke off the engagement in order to come out as a lesbian. But I didn't want to be a lesbian. And I was very lonely, so my eating habits probably got worse. Eating was not only a way for me to no longer be seen as a woman and to have any sort of sexual attraction to anybody else, from anybody else, but it was also a way for me to compensate for the lack of love that I felt in my life. I did not feel affection from my parents. My mother is not a very warm and affectionate person in general. She's a bit standoffish. She's very mental, not in a crazy way, but she's an intellectual sort of person, so she has more interest in intellectual pursuit than in emotional ones. So she was never a warm person. I used to ask her to hug me and she used to deny me hugs, saying, "Why do I have to hug you? That doesn't make any sense." Before I was 16, we had a fairly close relationship where we would spend a lot of time together and sort of cuddle. I started to develop sexuality and I was expressing it in art, and at several points in time she discovered my art and I started acting out and lashing out due to my discomfort, and our relationship really pretty much dissolved. I do not have a good relationship with my dad. He and I had actually a very volatile, violent relationship. Never physical altercations, but arguing and screaming and just overall bad interactions. So I did not have any parental love that was expressed physically or empathically growing up. At 30, he and I sat down and tried to sort of mend our relationship. But that, I was 30, I was already an adult at that time. Maybe 28, a couple of years ago. My mother has a hard time understanding me because I'm just really completely opposite to her. She can't even imagine in pictures, and I imagine in movies. So we're just very different. So I never felt any sort of affection growing up. I would be sick and people would just tell me to stop pretending. There was a lot of stuff. And so from about 11 or 12 to maybe 25, food was love for me. It was the only way that I could feel full of something that was delicious and warm. It was just a sensual experience that conveyed affection. When someone cooks for you, hopefully there's love in that. My mother never really cooked either, so I didn't have that. But I learned to cook at a very young age. So a way of showing love for myself was to eat. Shortly after my engagement, I returned from where I was living at the time, and due to a series of unfortunate events, I was homeless. And I had no food for a month and a half. I lost a lot of weight. I looked wonderful, which is, again, bad because of dysphoria. But it made me even more gluttonous, because what if there's no food tomorrow? I have to eat it all today. So my eating habits actually became worse as I was getting older. Around 2021, 22, I was still sort of dealing with that homelessness issue. It wasn't until about 3 years ago that I stopped carrying a bag of stuff with me everywhere I went in case I was homeless. So I mean, it took years to get over that. So food has had a lot of effect in my life, and it's had a plethora of difficulties related to it, related to a substitute for love. It was also a fear of homelessness. There was a lot of things going on with that. So food's been a big deal. I'm sort of a hedonist. I enjoy things that feel good, and if they don't feel good, I don't do them. Like, I used to do role-playing, tabletop role-play, because I really liked it, but it became a chore, and I stopped liking it, so I stopped doing it. I just don't see the point in doing things that you hate, or things that you don't like, or that feel bad, or that are hard. I'm an awesome person. Food is delicious, and it fills you up, and it's satisfying, and so it's a big deal. And if I look like a monster, no one will like me, and I won't have to deal with the fact that I don't feel like the gender that I am. So many, it's like an onion, there are so many layers to food in my life. Since I came out, and I used to always be very, very upset about the fact that I'm overweight. Like, that was a huge issue for me. And, oh, no one will ever love me, which I also didn't want, so it was kind of like self-fulfilling my prophecy and blah, blah, blah. So food was a big deal. And when I was 25 or 26, I had medical insurance, and I went to a doctor to help me lose weight because I started going to a gay bar, and I wanted attention. And I lost about 40 pounds, and I was exercising all the time, and I was eating right, very small amounts of food, very frequently, which is the way to go. It was hard, and I felt better. Good enough that I developed a romantic and at some point sexual relationship with this guy who was a long distance thing. And I went to see him, and we had really good sex, and then he stopped speaking to me. So I fell into a really powerful depression right around the same time that my insurance company, through my job, changed, and the doctor that I was seeing was no longer a doctor that my insurance would pay for. And so it all became really complicated, and with the depression I needed an abundance of love in my life, and so I started eating more, and I didn't have the moral support of a primary care physician who could kind of keep an eye on it. And I also mentioned to my doctor at one point, I think I'm transgender and I would like to change my gender, and she said, let's deal with the weight issue first. And then I put it off for another 5 years, so hooray me. So, I mean, food plays a vital part of my life. Since I came out, I gave up soda, I started trying to eat more vegetables, and my appetite has really gone down as well, so I tend to eat less. I don't tend to eat as much, which is bad, but I do eat less when I eat. I don't overeat as much as I do, and then if you add the binder to the whole big deal, my digestive system gets all crazy and not good, and so I'm less apt to eat because I don't feel like eating because my stomach is upset, and if I do eat, disaster. I may have lost a little weight, I don't really know, but my weight tends to fluctuate. But it's still hard for me to be motivated due to several things. So it's gotten healthier in some respects, and it's gotten less healthy in other respects. I eat less junk food, and I do try to eat more food, and I try to eat a variety of foods as opposed to just eating meat or just eating bread. And I do notice when I'm eating food that doesn't have any vegetables in it, and try to throw some vegetables into it. So, I mean, sort of, but not, but yes. When I start seeing an endocrinologist, I'm hoping that having that person who's kind of keeping an eye on me will help me get back onto the health track where I can lose a little weight. But I discovered the bears. Yeah, big bears. Not like the animals, but like the gay group. I really stopped worrying about being fat at that point, because there's a group of people around whom being myself as I am isn't an issue. I would love to be thin, definitely. I don't know if it's in me to be thin. It's in me, but I don't know if I have the ability to be thin. And I don't know if that's really gonna affect me, because I've been hit on a lot looking just the way I look. So I've stopped worrying. I'd rather not stress, because I'm a hedonist, remember? So doing things that feel good is good, and doing things that feel bad is not good. And so being around people where I can be myself without struggling, having to lose weight in order to find people to like me, and if people will only like me because I'm thin, I don't really want to know them. Fuck them. So, yes and no. I would like to be healthier, and I would like to lose a little weight so that I suffer less physically. But at the same time, if I can be the way I am and do what I do and find companionship, not that big a deal. So, yes and no, but the food issue wasn't just about the dysphoria and the gender, even though there were elements of that, certainly. I'm nothing if not complicated. So the more parts of me that I can in some way make unusual, the better. Anyway, that's it for week 27. Please join me next week for whatever next week is. I don't even know what the topic is, and I am not going to look, but you have a lovely week, and I apologize that I am one day late. Yesterday was support group day. I was adjusting my schedule, so I was like brain dead, and I came home really late, and it just didn't happen. Next week I'll be better. Promise. Catch you guys soon. Kai out.